everyone, happy Saturday. Thank you for sharing your weekend with us. My name is Rachel Zebro. I'm the Associate Curator for Collections here at Phoenix Art Museum. Today we have the pleasure of being with Manjari Sharma and Katherine Anne Paul, who are here to celebrate with us the extraordinary exhibition, Expanding Darshan, Manjari Sharma to See and Be Seen, now opened at Phoenix Art Museum in the newly renovated galleries on the 3rd floor of the Katz Wing. Manjari Sharma is a visual artist and art educator who makes work addressing issues of memory, family, identity, multiculturalism, and personal mythology. Her work has been recognized by the New York Times, Vice Magazine, CNN, Los Angeles, and Huff Post, and can be found in the permanent collections of the Metropolitan Museum of Art, Museum of Fine Arts Houston, Carlos Museum at Emory University, and Birmingham Museum of Art, and Santa Barbara Museum of Art, amongst various private collections. Katherine Anne Paul is the Virginia and William M. Spencer III Curator of Asian Art at the Birmingham Museum of Art in Alabama. A specialist in the arts of Tibet and a Fulbright scholar, she lectures and publishes widely and has curated numerous exhibitions showcasing both classic and contemporary art originating from Asia, including our very own Expanding Darshan, Manjari Sharma to See and Be Seen, handheld landscapes, The Four Seasons in Chinese painting from the Birmingham Museum of Art, and Wondrous Worlds, Art in Islam Through Time and Place, which traveled to Phoenix Art Museum in 2019, so welcome back, Katie. Manjari and Katie have a special video to share with us today of festivals and dances from India and at the Birmingham Museum of Art, followed by a series of images Manjari will share with us, highlighting the multidisciplinary nature of her practice, sharing insights, and maybe some sneak peeks into her new body of work. We will have some Q&A at the end. And please stop by the museum store following the talk for a book signing by Katie and Manjari. All of this being said, I think we're ready to get started. So please join me in welcoming Manjari Sharma and Katie Anne Paul.
Going to talk over the video, so I think we, I had turned down the music, but maybe if it's too noisy for people, it should go down to 1%. And the purpose of starting with this video is that Manjari and I have, in the exhibition as it appeared in Birmingham, conceived of this video, which we projected on the wall, as in conversation also with Manjari's work. What we also did I know here in Phoenix, like in Birmingham, you have several Indian dance companies. So we are fortunate in Birmingham to have 6 different forms of Indian dance represented by 6 different companies, and we invited one of them, Notini Indian Dance, to do some dances that are inspired by the deities that are featured in Manjari's photographs. So this starts off with our board chair and his wife who are here with us today, their lovely daughter Indira, doing the Ganesha dance. And on some level, I think you will be able to understand parts of it very easily, but on another level, I'm going to explain some of the postures and gestures. So I think you can already tell that is the gait of an elephant. And you'll see elephants in many different ways in the exhibition, but Ganesha's gait is that of a portly man as opposed to an elephant. But of course, what the song is singing is all these attributes that tell you who Ganesha is. And these dances are the kinds of dances that might be danced in front of an image of Ganesh. And in our galleries, we danced in front of Manjari's images because they're of the scale that really appreciate. And it's part of this concept of darshan, which we should say explicitly, and Manjari talks about it as well. Why don't you talk about darshan and what it means to you?
Yeah, I always find it incredible when I hear the name of our exhibition, because it says Expanding Darshan, Manjari Sharma to See and Be Seen. And every time you say that, I feel like it's the opportunity for me to see and be seen with each one of you, and that's what I think is really beautiful about the idea and the concept of darshan, that it doesn't matter who it is and where you go, it's the idea of your look being completed with a look back. And so that could happen in a temple, or in the context of Hindu worship, happens as organized in a temple. But in the case of this beautiful dance performance, it was, I feel, the dancer and the dancer's beautiful creations honoring and having a darshan with my work. And that, I think, is such a beautiful collaboration between the dancer and the visual artist.
One of the things I also just want to say, so we've also changed our locale because the community that performs this form of dance with the monkey man Hanuman, featured in Manjari's series, and the beautiful mermaid Subhana Mancha, is a Cambodian style dance, and in the exhibition we have a Cambodian piece of the embrace of Hanuman and the lovely mermaid Subhana Mancha. And the sound of the music changes too. So part of what you're also saying is just as you have different regional styles of music in the United States, as is perfectly shown at the Musical Instruments Museum, where costume for this dance is also on view. So just to show you local connections between what we have here and what you have here in Phoenix. Sorry, a little spin in there. So now we move back to the stage, much like a stage like this, where we filmed 3 lovely young dancers at Birmingham. And one of the things that is important in all of Manjari's photographs is the colors that the deities are wearing is not random. It's very specific. And that's why these 3 lovely young girls are wearing white, because Saraswati, the goddess of wisdom, wears white. And I think we all know the power of gesture. And in this contemporary world, we've got likes and dislikes. But a lot of what is being spoken in the song and the gestures that they're making in the dance are gestures that are recognizable once you know how to decode them. So part of this gesture is the sari of Saraswati, the worship of Saraswati. But at some point, they're going to play a musical instrument, what I'm going to call, instead of air guitar, air veena. Because Saraswati is the goddess of music, plays the veena. And you'll see in one moment how all of the attributes of the goddess are danced. Here's the air veena moment. So they're strumming the veena up and down instead of the air guitar. And that is one of the ways in which you see Saraswati has a beautiful face, that she wears a necklace of pearls, is what this gesture is, that she wears a beautiful white sari, that she plays the air veena, that she is among a lotus pond full of lotuses, and that the creator god Brahma, who in some traditions is her husband and in other traditions is her father, oversees her life, and that throughout the world everyone sees her. So it's very easy, if you already understand the visual language, to connect these dances to Manjari's incredible photographs. An otherwise unbeatable demon, a demon who is a shapeshifter. Here you see, I love this little girl. So this is the final part of the video, and here we have a goddess, a dancer who is embodying the goddess Durga, but also all the aspects of the story of the goddess receiving all of the implements of the other gods, and how she rides her tiger to slay a demon. She has to cut off the head of a water buffalo and then pull the shape-shifting demon out of the water buffalo's body and then stab it with her trident, which was Shiva's trident that was given to her to create her, because the story of Durga is that a woman can only do what men cannot do, or a woman can also do what men cannot do, because the male gods could not defeat the demon Mahishasa. And therefore, a woman goddess was created with all of the power and influence of all the male gods to kill the demon that was threatening the universe. And that is a snake gesture, because her snake accompanies her to fight the demon, and here she's waving her sword, and here she embodies the buffalo demon herself. So the dancer becomes both the demon and the goddess. She's cut off his head, she is pulling the demon out of the body, and then taking her spear and spearing the demon. So all of these stories, you can see that there is a birth and there is a death, and then there is a rebirth and there is a death. But this is just really one aspect of Manjari's practice, these amazing darshan deities, and her practice is so much broader than this.
I'll just add real quickly to bring it back to the work that you see upstairs in the gallery is that this Darshan experience that these performances are embodying are also witnessed through Manjari's photography and through the historical objects that are on view from the Birmingham collections as well. So when you talk about your senses and things that you see and things that you smell and things that you taste, Darshan is a very collective experience, right? It's or maybe it can be both. It can be individual and collective and collaborative, but really an emphasis on, you know, being kind of aware of your surroundings and taking everything in and having this divine experience. And so it's really incredible to see the breadth of all of the different ways that, and very accessible ways that people can experience Darshan.
And now, Rachel and I are going to exit the stage so that Manjari can fully take possession of the stage so that you can understand we are all more than one thing, we're more than two things, and Manjari's going to show you some of her other avatars.
Katie, I like the way you said that. I feel like I should be going inside and changing my outfit. So I'm going to be walking you through a few different bodies of work that I've made over my practice, over the time that I've traveled between cities and through experiences. This particular body of work is called the Shower Series, and it started in Brooklyn, in my shower in my own home, where I started to invite people I didn't know very well to come and sit for a portrait session, and if they're willing to take a shower while I'm photographing them. And I know what you're thinking. Sometimes there were people who were interested, sometimes people were like, you want me to do what? But most of the times, what I learned, and especially few people in, I learned very quickly that the shower became a space that offered itself as a confessional, and I started to feel like the hairdresser who just, when you fuss with someone's hair and they start to say a few things too many to you, and I heard some of the most exquisite stories coming out of these people's mouths, and I thought to myself, would I ever hear this story if I just, ran into them at a bar? Probably not. So I feel like this particular body of work is very important because it was the way I entered into my understanding of process, which is not too different than activating all your senses. There was sound activated, I could hear the waterfall. Obviously the shower was an intimate space, and I felt like people walked in and I didn't know them, and when we were walking out, we kind of knew some very special things about each other. And I with their permission, recorded a lot of the things that they said, and they were beautiful and honest stories. And as you know, the body was not that important. It was really more the unlocking of the mind, and the conversations that I had were memorable, and that body of work lasted for about 5 years, and I feel like I'm still in touch with many of my showers. They became very, very dear to me. And we're bonded by a very special experience. So, in a sense, it was my first darshan. And this is, I actually spoke to a gentleman earlier today. This is the Golden Temple in Amritsar, India. And to explain to you what a darshan is, this is what it might look like. You line up to enter a very special space, and often this experience will come with sound. Just like what Katie said earlier, there's incense wafting. So your senses are called to attention. There's often light and perspective and depth that plays into your experience there. And then, often the door opens and you see a deity. And often these experiences were very controlled. I grew up going to many of them, and I always saw a sculpture or a painting. And I remember the moment when I said, well, why can't this moment be a photograph? So to a certain degree, I wanted to bring my medium of worship, so to speak, my camera and as somebody who enjoyed looking through the lens, I wanted to bring the idea of this darshan to a photograph. And so this is a very
this is something you won't see upstairs. The few slides I have here are what you won't see upstairs, but I hope if you haven't been to the exhibit that you go after this. This is how it all started. There were some quick color chips plans of how I wanted to make 9 deities photographically, and then I would break them down into their layers. One of the questions that people have asked me when they've gone upstairs is, how did I do the multi-armed forms? So this is a very bored model waiting for her arm to be molded so that we can come up with multiple arms. How the headdresses were drawn and organized and arranged. Heads had to be sized, and again, molds were made, and those molds were then gemmed so that custom crowns can be made. When you go up to the Lakshmi photograph, the same photograph that you see on the cover of the book, this is how some very early drawings of the work came together. And when you go up to see Kali, who is the poster child for the Phoenix show, this is what the raw set for this work looked like. And also one of the things that people often ask me is how much Photoshop is in the work. So I just want to show you, this is the Polaroid right off the set. So this is the picture is 95% there, except for the removal of some fishing line. And of course, when we did prosthetics, there were molds that had to be made. Here's the fitting of the Ganesha prosthetic, a fitting of the Hanuman, the monkey god prosthetic. What the sets look like, and the set of Brahma, where we had to paint. He's the one tasked with being the creator of the universe. He's shown as a very old bearded man, and you'll see him upstairs, and his set is extremely pink, but it wasn't pink when it started. This is a fitting of Hanuman's bodysuit, and how this is the first moment, the first show that Darshan had. It was at the Asia Society, Houston, and the planning of the frames was definitely a very big part of it. So here's a before, and here's an after of all 9 of the works slowly being made. And of course, I really don't think that digital does it justice, so I hope you'll go upstairs and revisit. Thank you. Another body of work here, it's called How to Wear a Sari. And I remember when I asked my mom that, how do I wear a sari? So it's a very tongue-in-cheek name, but it's really just a reason for me to kind of undo the sari and take it back to the process of where it starts at a loom, to study the process of how it's born, and the looms themselves are just absolutely mesmerizing objects, and to see these threads come together to make a yards and yards of fabric that is essentially formless until your body gives it form. That story is very interesting and inspiring to me. I've started this body of work a few years ago, and it's ongoing. This is another series. It was a commission from the Metropolitan Museum of Art. I was asked to work with another artist and go into a wordless dialogue with my chosen artist. It was called Talking Pictures, and a photograph was a question and a photograph was an answer. So it's a collaborative work with my a collaborator, Irina Rozovsky, and you're looking at the dialogue between 2 equally pregnant people who ended up with a baby right when the commission was due. So throughout the 6 months of us photographing, we photographed our bodies, we photographed the world, and this is my second child, Nora, who's now 6. So this is what the body of work looked like. It was 122 photographs. I had a residency where they invited me to come back and continue the shower series years later. So, and that was, it was not in Brooklyn, and so the shower was much bigger. There was a lot more space. So I'm showing you a few images of the shower series when I revisited them. But in my practice, it's very difficult for me to make derivatives of something I've already made before. So I couldn't revisit and say, okay, let me turn the shower series switch on again. So the shower very naturally progressed from the shower into the swimming pool, which was access that the West Coast brings to you, is access to swimming pools. And I invited people to take themselves and immerse themselves in water again. But this time I was really interested in the disassembled body form, and it was incredible for me to just see bodies morph into other shapes and go from human to maybe these other organic worlds. And then I thought it would be really interesting to take the videos that I was capturing and try to project them back into the swimming pool. And a part of that was because I wanted to make the process fold on itself. I wanted to turn the swimming pool itself into a canvas and an experience, larger than life bodies. And they turned these everyday people that I photographed in the water turned into these giant gods, which of course is something that I really enjoy. So this is actually an installation shot from the opening night of this work. It's called Surface Tension. And I'm going to close with this particular body of work, but I'm going to read as I move along. As an artist and immigrant who was raised and rooted in the culture of India, 10 years ago my interest broke new personal ground as I turned my lens towards my father, caring for my mother, battling an incurable terminal illness. Loss and Resurrection documented my mother's struggle with an aggressive form of dementia. I knew I couldn't stop my mother from disassembling, but making a photograph allowed me to stop time, and editing allowed me to reverse it. As I photographed my parents year after year, it became a deeply personal journey through the landscape of memory and loss. The body of work transcended mere documentation. It became an artistic quest to capture and in moments reverse the relentless march of time. After a decade-long struggle with the disease, my mother took her last breaths on August 9th, 2022. What was long feared as a crippling moment of loss came with some unexpected and striking revelations. The days that followed were filled with new customs, rituals, iconography, and performances that invited me into a new paradigm, the journey of the soul in the afterlife. These end-of-life rituals led me to believe that death is but a way station. It's not the end of an individual, but the start of a new, dynamic, and interactive process. These rituals we performed were not only designed to bring physical and psychological comfort, they offered an organized map that highlighted my mother's afterlife journey in explicit and vivid detail. At a time when I felt lost, I found myself crafting a rich creative narrative that envisioned the unique worlds my mother's soul might be traversing. My next project, like my previous ones, draws inspiration from the nature and potential of ritual, inviting you to dig deeper and stay rooted in your act of seeking. I'm going to end with this quote, which I really truly believe in. It is better to live your own destiny imperfectly than to live in imitation of somebody else's life with perfection. Thank you so much.
At this time, do we want to open it up to Q&A? Anybody? Sure? Yes?
Where did the people come from, typically, over the course of your career that you have photographed? Do you go to art schools and people sign up, or just like how do you find a bunch of people to take a shower with?
Sometimes I pick them up in auditoriums in Phoenix. It's extremely organic. It doesn't happen I truly feel like it's a moment that feels like a connection with a person, or often it's people I'm attracted to that I don't know anything about. And I enjoy that, because then I can bring my camera to the investigation, which is something I'm interested in.
And then maybe you can speak to some of the performers, some of the actors, some of the journalists that you used for the Darshan series.
Yeah, and they were all very different. The Lakshmi, who was the goddess of wealth and fortune, she at the time was a flight attendant, and I was struck by her features. I was struck by her gait, the way she walked, and I invited her to become a part of it. She went on to do some very incredible things in the entertainment business, but at the time, she was flying on charter. She was flying on charter planes. So, but she happened to be a person I knew in our condo complex in Bombay. So all of this work was made in Bombay. So all of these people were found slowly over trips to India. And once I had a few, I had 3 gods going. Everybody knew when I was looking for the next person, which was amazing because then it felt like the universe conspired to help you. It's like everyone from the watchman to people I knew in my community knew I was looking for my Vishnu. And then so people made suggestions. There were auditions, of course, and but I was also really looking for somebody who I tried not to go with actors because I wanted somebody from every life as much as I could help.
I think Hanuman is a heavyweight champion.
He's a weightlifter. Yes, he is, and he is a champion. Yeah. My champion. Yes.
There's a question.
Did you do some of this in Pune? I was reading upstairs yesterday because I was reading outside of Bombay. Okay.
Yeah, I did. There was a photography school called Bharatiya Vidyapeeth School of Photography, BVSP, and it's a really wonderful campus. And they got wind of the first few works, and then they invited me to continue the project. They shared their students and their lights and their space, and I was able to make some of the works there.
I saw that yesterday when I went to the exhibit.
All the way in the back.
Hi Manjari, welcome to Phoenix, first of all.
Thank you.
And secondly, your dementia portion caught my attention.
Yeah.
My parents are not in that phase, but I like the documentation. So my question is, was your aim to document the dementia of your mom going through for yourself, or was it to educate others that may possibly go through it, or caretaker families that may go through it?
I mean, at first it was truly a gut reaction to save what I could see before my eyes because it was changing so quickly. So it was a question of days and she would be a different person, And when something in front of you changes very quickly, all you can do is go to something comforting that you are familiar with. And what I was familiar with was the contours of my camera, and I knew it was almost what was in front of the camera was not in control, but the camera brought an element of control. So I feel like I made these photographs, and I will say for many years I didn't even visit them. So they were too difficult to look at. And there are a few people in this room that have seen me speak in other places, and I'm going to give myself a 7 on 10 today because it's not easy for me to talk about it. It's extremely personal. So I didn't even think that this was something that would be folded. But a practice chooses you. It's not the other way around. So to a great degree, I would say now, after I didn't give up on making that work and just went at it year after year, I did see that I could break it down to stages. And that was something that made it very easy to have a conversation with someone else who's going through dementia. And I do think it has a chronological educational power from being able to look at it and being able to, and also to just have it because it changes so quickly. So it becomes the common thread that you can have a conversation over. Oh, this is what my mother used to do, So I'm very thankful for the historic preservation of the moments for me personally, emotionally, but also what it might mean medically to have a conversation with someone else.
What did you say? Over there, in the back?
Thank you so much for everything you've done and presented. With respect to Darshan, the evolution of Western science has told us that everything that is observed is changed by the act of observation from the molecular level on up. What can you tell us about the way in which their participation has changed the individuals whom you, in fact, used for this representation?
Wow, I wish there was a few of them who could speak to it and were here, but I can speak to how it's changed me, or how making any of the work ever changes me. I do think that it all comes down to your ardent act of seeking, and not giving up and continuing to seek. So I feel like every one of my bodies of work are about that nature and potential of ritual and that repetition. So from what you are saying, what you are saying is a darshan is both people. It's not just the devotee, but also the deity, which assigns a lot of equal power to both things, doesn't it? Even though there is a potential hierarchy here. And so what does that say? You know, and I think that to me ultimately says that if you do put everything into it, the look back is you putting everything into it. That is what folds on itself, is the fact that you put it all in. And what you get from it is giving it all. So, yeah.
Isn't
Can I comment
So,
there? So
yes.
only I translated, you know, the gentleman who played Shiva.
Yeah.
It's in contradiction and so.
Yes. Yes.
So he said that actually himself has changed him because he never realized that from Banaras and he played Shiva, so he wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, most of the
Could
people...
you repeat the question?
Yeah. Well, actually, it's not like he's making a point about it because he's spoken to the... or maybe Kate can
Well,
speak.
I can speak, and also there's a question right behind Sanjay after. Just if you want to go a deeper dive, in addition to the spectacular features here in Phoenix, still on the Birmingham Museum of Art website, we have a lot of other content that includes interviews with a number of the models. So what Sanjay was saying is that in the interview for the model for Shiva, that individual is from Benares, which is the sacred city of Shiva, and he talks about how being a model of Shiva, being a person from Benares, from the city of Shiva, has personally changed him. I also know, also in that suite of interviews, there's an interview with your family ritual priest, who also you were showing here, who is the model for Ganesha, and it also he also speaks to how it changes his perspective of what it means, and he's a professional ritualist, and so the process of embodying Ganesha for this project has been transformative for him as an individual and as a pujari, as a ritual specialist.
Yeah, and Ganesha is the elephant god, but all that to say, it really mattered to me that the people who played the part had a sense of respect for it, and I think it's really interesting that the question that you just asked, it has been asked before, and now when I think of Shiva, I don't think of any other Shiva, I think of my Shiva. I don't think of all the Lakshmis that I have grown up with, I think of my Lakshmi. So I feel like I'm owning the people that I thought can really perfectly represent these ideas and stories that I grew up with.
Personalized gods.
So, I remember our conversation from last night.
Yeah.
And the thing that you said that really touched me was that while growing up, your mother was very, religious and visiting temples and all.
Mm-hmm.
And you would go along with her.
Yeah.
But you wanted darshan, but you couldn't find it. But when you created all these deities yourself, that's where you felt that was your darshan. So I would like you to elaborate on that, if you may. And also, just wanted to make a comment that having grown up in a similar environment, we all have certain images of each god, goddess. And the person you picked had that kind of impression or that kind of look. So that shows your sensitivity of connecting the two.
Thank you for saying that. In terms of not being able to have a darshan or have one, what I'm saying is I didn't know what was the method to the madness, To some degree, every time my mother wanted me to walk into somewhere, I would walk into places, and some places I'd be stunned, on other places I'd be like, can you please go to the restaurant, or, But I did it. She wanted to do it, and I did it with her. And I think it goes back to this act of repetition. And when I was building those darshans, though, of course, I was like looking for that moment, that transformational moment where I felt that that person who's playing that part is fully present. And then I wanted their attention fully. I wanted them to be present in that character or play that role. So I think it just speaks to our ability to command our presence as fully as possible, which I think goes back to if you're not fully seeking, then you don't know what's going on. So it's a question of you commanding yourself to be present in the moment.
I think there's something so beautiful about that, because being in the present moment and then being honest as well, like a part of darshan is being, this type of reflection is them seeing you truly for who you are, all of your flaws, all of your imperfections,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And then that being reflected back. And so,
Yeah, and to that point, I hope that people are interested in the imperfections in the photographs as well, because they're not free of imperfections. They're as much perfection as I could muster, but at some point, it had to be, I had to, there were budgetary limitations.
Perfect is the enemy of good, or perfect is the enemy of great.
But I do think leaving some of those imperfections and making them a part of that story just speaks to this, challenges this idea of a perfect God, which my purpose was to humanize the concept of it.
How long did it take to stage each image, and over what period of time did it take you to make the 9 images?
Yeah, it took me 3 years to make 9 images. It took me 3 years in total. And it would end up taking between 4 to 8 weeks, depending on the complexity, to make one.
What format did you use? Was one to assume it was digital or large format film?
It's large format film. It's a 4x5.
So you used a 4x5 studio film cameras?
Yeah.
And then you
I use CNR.
CNR,
yeah.
and then you digitized, or did you just?
It's the first set of images. Well, no, they were all drum scanned to high resolution, so that we could, make the prints at the scale that we wanted to make them on. Also, take away the fishing lines and lie just a little bit,
And I want to jump in just for your good information, in case you haven't gone to her website, but please do, because you can see this and other amazing bodies of work. But the edition that's on view in the galleries is a limited edition of 2 and the only complete edition that is held in a public institution. But if you want one of her gods to be your gods, they are available in smaller formats without the brass frames on her website. And I get no commission. I'm just saying how amazing it truly is to have that opportunity, because that is not something that you often have an opportunity to have, is access to this amazing type of artwork. And she's released limited editions of all of them in different formats.
Now your process is what? Drawing these, then casting them in paper mache, and then putting it all together in I thought it was water. I thought it was paintings yesterday. I was amazed.
I love that. I love that.
To know that it was photographs. Is that your process, basically?
There are 4 very descriptive making-of videos in the gallery itself that'll show you all the breaks it up, But it started. I showed you the first sketches. So it started actually on Adobe Illustrator. It started as just like the plans for color chips, and then the details were born, and different materiality came with it. So there was foam core, a lot of foam core involved, a lot of fishing line involved, a lot of fabric involved, a lot of plaster involved, a lot of wood involved. But they were all just custom constructed, one by one, painted and then layered. It was the arrangements.
They look like hand paintings. They're just gorgeous.
Thank you.
So, do you consider yourself a devotee of these deities now that you've kind of done some sense an offering? Almost in some sense? Does it feel like that?
I'm a devotee.
Are you closer to it?
I mean, it wasn't a quest to become closer or further away, but it was a quest to, I've always been interested in story, and I love their stories, and I love their imperfections. I found the stories of these gods very similar to stories of our humanity. So I see parallels in that. I see I see, my ancestors writing the stories of Rama from a real human being, So, as far as I'm concerned, they're metaphorical. And so I do think it was a really fun process to picture them and to crystallize these moments that have been, each one of those illustrations have very incredible stories behind them. So I think I remain a devotee of the stories.
Beautiful, yeah, and you really did humanize them in a beautiful way. So
Thank you.
Just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
I guess we've got one question in the back.
I'm so impressed, thank you. Of the 9 Hindu deities, do you have a favorite?
I really don't like this question.
Although she asked the same question of me yesterday.
I did. But I can ask that question, but it shouldn't come back to me. I can tell you who's trending right now. I think for a long time now, Saraswati has been very important to me, but also she's a goddess of art, music, and education, and all of those things are really important to me. So, if that answers your question. But don't ask me tomorrow.
I just want to add one thing that we hadn't yet mentioned during this talk is your frames. I think everybody, when you walk up to the exhibition, you will be really quite amazed at the depth of the frames and the presence that the frames have. And I know that that's quite purposeful. So if you wouldn't mind saying a few sentences about your frames.
Yeah, I sometimes look at myself and I look back at the time when I was making these works. I remember when they were completed and I finished the 9th one. And it was done, and I can tell you I put my family through the ringer for it, And then I remember starting to plan the frames, and there was a moment I was like, can I not stop? What's happening? Am I not able to stop? Because the frames were a multi-part process as well. But I think a part of it was collaboration. To me is really, really fun. And I think the coming together of styles and people and story is really interesting to me. So I knew the person who was doing hammered brass was in South India. I was the idea, even though I've been to so many of these temples where these hammered brass frames are placed as portals inside temples. I was reminded of it in Brooklyn, in a temple in Brooklyn. So I like it when the story ping-pongs between worlds, and to some degree, the brass frames came from South India. The back of it was amalgamated in Bushwick, and it was a real process to understand how to gold leaf them and then to preserve that gold leaf. So that's how they were born. And they were born because, in a way, they reflected the same story that the work had.
Because also, each one is personalized to each deity, so that on the sides, there are different pairs of images of how the family tree of these deities respond, which I think is also part of the brilliance of this particular series.
I do enjoy the echo of the content coming back again on top of the frame.
And I would add that I think that it helps as well, like when you think of these experiences that you're having in a temple, whether that's in India or whether that's in Brooklyn, wherever you are, and then to come and have it in place in a museum environment.
Yes. I can't tell you how much I've talked to Jeremy about this, how much I love the fact that you can go from my exhibit into Laura Aguilar's exhibit, where the body is put on this pedestal, and she is a goddess, and you get to see her in all of these forms over and over, and only a space like a museum can equalize stories like that, and I think that's so powerful.
Okay, yeah. One more question up front.
What was your experience like in beginning with photography? And if somebody, say, just got their first camera, what sort of advice would you give to a beginner?
Hi. I would say have fun. That's the most important part, is to not stop having fun. And if you think you should make the picture, make it. Don't let it, and guard your flame. I always say that too. You have something inside you telling you to go make something. Don't let someone extinguish it. Don't let someone tell you bad idea. Oh no, I wonder what that's going to look like. Like, don't listen to that. So, if you have an idea, see it through its fruition, and you'll learn something. No one else is going to be there to tell you what's right or wrong. You'll find it out for yourself.